Admiral Park Do-yeon stood on the bridge of the battleship Indomitable, staring at the stars through the main viewport. 300 years. That was how long humanity had been part of the Galactic Council. 300 years of following rules, signing treaties, and bowing their heads. 300 years of being treated like children, who did not deserve a seat at the table. He had served in the fleet for 40 years. He had seen humanity's best diplomats smile through insults. He had watched Earth's ambassadors accept unfair deals, because the alternative was war against species that had traveled the stars for thousands of years, before humans even discovered fire. Patience, they always said. Patience would earn respect. It never did. His communication officer, a young woman named Lieutenant Seo Hanyul, turned from her station. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. Priority 1. Do-yeon nodded. "Put it through." The face of Ambassador Yoon Mi-rae appeared on the screen. She looked tired. Dark circles under her eyes told the story of too many sleepless nights. Her hair, once perfectly arranged, was now pulled back in a simple style. She had aged 10 years in the last month alone. "Admiral Park," she said. "The Council has passed Resolution 7749. Do-yeon felt his hands tighten into fists. "What are the terms?" "Human expansion is now limited to 3 star systems. Sol, Alpha Centauri, and Proxima. All other colonies are to be reviewed for compliance with Council standards." She paused. "They didn't even let me speak. They voted before I entered the chamber." "That's 12 billion people," Do-yeon said quietly. 12 billion people living in colonies that suddenly don't belong to them anymore. I filed a formal protest. They dismissed it. The Valorian representative laughed, "Admiral." He laughed in my face and told me that humans should be grateful they're allowed to keep Earth at all. Do-yeon had met the Valorians. They were tall, elegant creatures with silver skin and eyes that glowed like dying stars. They had ruled the Council for 6,000 years. To them, humans were nothing more than clever animals who had stumbled into space by accident. "What do you need from the fleet?" he asked. "Nothing yet. Supreme Commander O wants all military vessels to remain in position. We're trying diplomatic channels first." "Diplomatic channels?" Do-yeon almost laughed. "Ambassador, with respect, we've been trying diplomatic channels for 3 centuries. They don't work." "They've never worked." Mi-rae's expression softened. "I know. Believe me, Admiral, I know better than anyone. But we have to try. We have to show the galaxy that we did everything possible to avoid conflict. And when diplomacy fails?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Then we show them what happens when they push us too far." The transmission ended. Do-yeon stood alone on his bridge, thinking about what was coming. His crew went about their duties in silence. They had all heard the conversation. They all knew what Resolution 7749 meant. Captain Kang Jie approached him. She was his second-in-command, a woman who had served with him for 15 years. She was short, with sharp eyes and a scar across her left cheek from a battle against pirates near the outer colonies. She never smiled, but Do-yeon trusted her more than anyone in the fleet. "They're going to send ships," she said. "The Valorians. They'll want to enforce the resolution, I know. We have 17 colonies outside the approved systems. Mining stations, research facilities, agricultural worlds. Millions of people, I know, GA." She stepped closer and lowered her voice. "Admiral, I've seen the intelligence reports. Director Choi's people have been watching the Valorians for decades. They've been sabotaging our colony ships. Engine failures, navigation errors, life support malfunctions. Hundreds of ships lost. Thousands of lives. It wasn't accidents. It was murder." Do-yeon had seen the same reports. He had read them late at night when he couldn't sleep, feeling rage build in his chest like a fire that wouldn't go out. The Council had been killing humans for years, slowly, quietly, making sure humanity never grew strong enough to challenge their rule. "The commander knows," he said. "Ambassador Yoon knows. Everyone who needs to know, knows. Then why are we still talking? Why aren't we fighting?" Because when we fight, we need to win. Not just one battle, all of them. Every single one. If we lose, they won't just push us back to 3 systems. They'll burn Earth to ash and scatter humanity across the void. Jie nodded slowly. She understood. They all understood. This wasn't about pride or revenge. This was about survival. 2 days later, the Valorian fleet arrived. There were 30 ships, sleek silver vessels that moved through space like predators hunting weak prey. They took position around humanity's outer colonies, weapons armed, shields raised. Their commander sent a message to Admiral Park directly. "Human vessel," the Valorian said. His voice was smooth, almost musical, but filled with contempt. "You are hereby ordered to withdraw from this sector. These territories are under review by the Galactic Council. Any resistance will be considered an act of war." Doyan looked at the Valorian ships on his tactical display. 30 against his 12. Bad odds, but not impossible. His ships were smaller, yes, but faster. And his crews had trained their whole lives for this moment, but his orders were clear. No engagement. "Not yet, we acknowledge your message," he said. "Be advised that these colonies contain civilian populations. Any aggressive action against non-military targets will be considered a violation of the Galactic Charter of Rights." The Valorian laughed. It was the same laugh Ambassador Yoon had described. Cold, dismissive, cruel. "The charter applies to council members in good standing," he said. "Your people are under review? You have no rights." The transmission ended. Doyan looked at Captain Kong. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them the Valorians are in position. Tell them we're standing down as ordered. And tell them that humanity's patience is not unlimited." "Yes, Admiral." She walked away to relay the message. Doyan returned to the viewport and watched the Valorian ships floating in the darkness. They were so confident, so certain that humanity would bow again. They had pushed and pushed for 300 years, and humans had always stepped back. Not this time, Doyan thought. This time, you've gone too far. He didn't know exactly when the war would start. He didn't know what would finally break humanity's patience. But he knew it was coming. He could feel it in his bones. The way a sailor feels a storm before the first clouds appear, the Galactic Council had drawn a line. They thought humans would be afraid to cross it. They were wrong. New Bizin was beautiful in the morning. The twin suns rose over green mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Rivers cut through valleys filled with rice fields and orchards. Cities spread across the landscape like clusters of white stones, their towers reaching toward the clouds. Governor Beek Sunho stood on his balcony and watched the sunrise. He had lived on New Bizin for 30 years, ever since he retired from military service to build something instead of destroy it. This world was his home now. 12 million people called it home. Farmers, scientists, teachers, children. Good people living peaceful lives on the edge of human space. His assistant knocked on the door. "Governor, Dr. Han is here for your meeting. Send her in." Dr. Han Yuna entered the room with a tablet in her hands and excitement in her eyes. She was young, barely 30, but already one of the finest medical researchers in human space. Her team had been working on a cure for Kellerman syndrome, a disease that affected not just humans but 3 other council species. If they succeeded, it would save millions of lives across the galaxy. "Governor, we've had a breakthrough," she said. "The trials are showing 90% success rates. We could have a working cure within 6 months. Sunho smiled. "That's wonderful news, Doctor. The Council will have to acknowledge this. They can't ignore a cure that saves their own people." Yuna's smile faded slightly. "Do you really think they'll care? They've never cared about anything we've done before. Maybe this will be different, maybe." She didn't sound convinced. They talked for another hour about the research, about funding and equipment and the next phase of trials. Sunho listened carefully, asking questions, making notes. This was the work that mattered. Not politics, not military posturing. This was humanity proving its value to the galaxy through deeds, not words. The alarm started at midday. It was a sound Sunho hadn't heard in 20 years. The planetary defense alert. A long wailing tone that echoed from every speaker in every city on New Bizan. He ran to his command center. His military advisor, Commander Shin Tai-woo, was already there, staring at screens filled with red warnings. "What's happening?" Sun Ho demanded. "Ships," Tai-woo said. His voice was steady, but his face was pale. "Valorian warships. 40 of them. They just dropped out of hyperspace in orbit." 40? That's an invasion fleet. "Yes, sir. They're hailing us." Sun Ho took a breath and nodded. "Put them through." The screen flickered and a Valorian appeared. He wore the uniform of a fleet commander, decorated with medals and insignia. His silver face showed no emotion as he spoke. "Governor Beak, by order of the Galactic Council, your colony is in violation of Resolution 7749. You are hereby ordered to surrender control of this world to Council. Authorities pending review of your settlement. Rights." Sun Ho felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "Commander, New Bizan was established 80 years ago under the Colonial Charter. We have full legal rights to this territory. Resolution 7749 cannot be applied retroactively. The resolution has been amended. All human settlements outside the approved systems are now subject to review. You have 1 hour to comply. And if we don't?" The Valorian's eyes glowed brighter. "Then we will enforce compliance." The transmission ended. Sun Ho turned to Tai-woo. "How many defense ships do we have?" 6 patrol vessels. Light weapons and shields. They're meant for pirates, not warships. Ground forces? 2,000 soldiers. "Governor, we can't fight 40 warships." "It's impossible." Sun Ho knew he was right. New Bizan wasn't a military target. It was a farming world, a research colony. They had never needed heavy defenses because they had never expected an attack from the Council itself. "Send a message to Earth," he said. "Tell them what's happening. Then start evacuating the cities. Get people underground, into shelters, into the mountains, anywhere away from population centers." "Sir, even if we surrender?" "They're not here to review our settlement rights, Commander. They're here to make an example. They want to show humanity what happens when we complain about their resolutions." The hour passed too quickly. Sun Ho spent it helping coordinate evacuations, watching millions of people flee their homes with whatever they could carry. Children cried. Parents carried elderly relatives on their backs. The roads became rivers of frightened humanity flowing toward uncertain safety when the hour ended. The Valorians didn't even send another message. The first bomb hit the capital city at exactly 12 o'clock. It came down like a falling star, bright and beautiful for one terrible moment before it struck the ground. The explosion turned 30 square kilometers into fire. Buildings vanished. Streets melted. 400,000 people died in less than a second. Governor Beak felt the shockwave from 50 kilometers away. He watched a mushroom cloud rise over what had been a city of 2 million people. His city, his home. "Governor!" Commander Tai-woo grabbed his arm. "We have to move." More bombs fell. The Valorians were targeting every major population center on the planet. Cities that had stood for decades disappeared in flashes of light. The sky filled with smoke and ash. "The research facility," Sun Ho said. "Dr. Han, gone, sir." Direct hit. Yuna, her team. All that work. All those lives. Sun Ho's mind went blank. He couldn't think. Couldn't feel. He just stood there while his world burned around him. Tai-woo pulled him toward a bunker entrance. "We have to go underground. The fleet is landing troops. If they capture you, they'll use you as a symbol. They'll make you surrender on camera and then execute you anyway." Sun Ho let himself be led. His legs moved without his mind telling them to. Behind him, New Bizan was dying. 12 million people. Farmers, scientists, teachers, children. Good people who had done nothing wrong except be born human in a galaxy that hated them for a dot in the bunker. Tai-woo managed to send one final transmission to Earth. It contained footage from the attack. Cities burning. Civilians running. Ships bombing from orbit with no warning, no mercy. No reason except cruelty. The transmission reached Earth 12 hours later. It spread across every human world within a day. Every colony, every station, every ship saw what the Valorians had done to New BUSAN. 9 million people were dead. 3 million survivors were hiding underground while Valorian troops hunted them through the ruins, and for the first time in 300 years, humanity stopped talking. The anger was quiet at first. People watched the footage in silence. They read the reports without comment. They looked at pictures of burning cities and dead children and said nothing at all, but the silence wasn't peace. It wasn't acceptance. It was the moment before the storm. Ambassador Yun Mai sat alone in her office on Earth, watching the footage for the 100th time. Her hands shook. Tears ran down her face. She had spent her entire career trying to find peace with the Council, trying to prove that humanity deserved respect. She was done trying. She picked up her communicator and called, "Supreme Commander OJ1, Commander," she said. "They crossed the line. I know. What happens now?" There was a pause. When O spoke again, his voice was different, harder, colder. Now they learn why that was a mistake. Supreme Commander OJ1 had never wanted to give this speech. He stood in the broadcast center deep beneath Earth's surface, surrounded by cameras and technicians. In a few minutes, his face would appear on every screen in human space. Every colony, every station, every ship would hear his voice. He had written the speech himself, staying awake for 3 nights to find the right words. Words that would tell the truth. Words that would unite his people. Words that would declare war. Director Choi Young-ji stood beside him, holding a tablet filled with data. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. For 20 years, she had run human intelligence services. For 20 years, she had watched the Council's movements, gathered evidence, and prepared for this moment. "The broadcast is ready, Commander," she said. "We'll live in 60 seconds. Jae-won nodded. He looked at himself in a mirror. 63 years old, gray hair, weathered face, tired eyes. He had spent his entire career trying to prevent war, building defenses, training troops, preparing for battles he prayed would never come. The prayers hadn't worked. 30 seconds. He thought about New Bisan, 9 million dead. Cities turned to ash. Children who would never grow up. Parents who would never see their families again. He thought about Dr. Han Yuna and her cure that could have saved millions of lives across the galaxy. Gone, all of it gone because the Valorians wanted to teach humanity a lesson. 10 seconds. Jae-won took a breath. This was it. No more diplomacy. No more patience. No more waiting for respect that would never come. The red light turned on. He was live. "People of Earth," he began. "People of the colonies. My fellow humans. I speak to you today with a heavy heart and clear eyes. 3 days ago, the Valorian Empire attacked our colony world of New Bisan without warning and without mercy. 9 million of our brothers and sisters are dead. 3 million more are fighting for survival in the ruins of their homes." He paused, letting the words settle. "The Galactic Council has called this an enforcement action. They say New Bisan violated Resolution 7749. This is a lie. New Bisan is established 80 years ago under laws that the Council itself approved. The resolution was changed after the fact to make our colony illegal. This wasn't enforcement. This was murder." He looked directly into the camera. But New Bisan wasn't the beginning. It was only the latest in a long history of crimes against our people. Today I will tell you the truth. The truth that your leaders have known for decades but never shared because we hoped that patience would bring peace. Director Choi stepped forward and activated a display. Images appeared behind Jae-won, ships, documents, reports. For 200 years, the Galactic Council has been sabotaging humanity. Our colony ships suffered engine failures and navigation errors that killed thousands. We thought they were accidents. They weren't. They were deliberate attacks designed to keep our population small and weak. More images. More evidence. Our scientists made discoveries that could have advanced human technology by centuries. Those scientists disappeared. We thought they died in accidents or left their work. They didn't. They were assassinated by council agents. The images kept coming. Trade deals that bankrupted human companies. Political maneuvers that isolated Earth from potential allies. Medical supplies that were contaminated before reaching human colonies. 47 confirmed operations against humanity. Thousands of lives lost. Trillions in economic damage. All hidden behind smiles and handshakes and treaties that promised equality while delivering oppression. Jaewon's voice grew harder. We endured this. We endured it because we believed that peace was possible. We believed that if we followed the rules, if we proved our value, the Council would accept us. We were wrong. The Council never wanted peace with humanity. They wanted submission. They wanted us weak, divided, and afraid. He stepped closer to the camera. We are done being weak. We are done being divided. And we are done being afraid. 1 hour ago, I gave the order to activate all military forces in human space. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we possess is now preparing for war. We did not choose this fight. We did everything possible to avoid it. But when you attack our homes and murder our children, you leave us no choice. He thought about his own children, his grandchildren, all the young people who would fight and die in the war he was about to start. I will not lie to you. The road ahead will be hard. The Council has ruled this galaxy for thousands of years. Their fleets are vast, their technology is advanced, and they have never lost a war. But they have never fought humanity. They have never faced a species that spent 300 years watching, learning, and preparing. A small smile crossed his face. They think they know us. They think we're young and weak and afraid of their power. They are wrong. We are not young. We carry the memory of 10,000 years of human history. We are not weak. We have built wonders across 100 worlds with nothing but our minds and our hands. And we are not afraid. We are the children of Earth. We have faced extinction before. We are still here. He straightened his shoulders. To the Galactic Council, I say this. You wanted to see what humans do when they have nothing left to lose. Watch carefully. You want to teach us a lesson? Prepare to learn one instead. To the Valorian Empire, I say this. You murdered 9 million of our people. We will not forget. We will not forgive. And we will not stop until you answer for every single life you took. To the other species of the galaxy, I say this. We have no quarrel with you. This war is with the Council that oppressed you as much as it oppressed us. Stand aside and you have nothing to fear from humanity. Stand with the Valorians and you will share their fate. He looked into the camera one final time. To my fellow humans, I say this. We are one people. One family. What they did to New Bizan, they did to all of us. Remember that in the days ahead. Remember why we fight. Not for conquest. Not for revenge. We fight because they gave us no other choice. We fight because our children deserve a galaxy where they can live without fear. We fight because we are human and we will not be broken. He paused. May we have the strength to see this through. May we have the wisdom to know when to stop. And may we never forget what we're fighting for? This is Supreme Commander Jaewon. The war begins now. The broadcast ended. Jaewon stood still for a moment, feeling the weight of what he had just done. Billions of people had heard his words. Within hours, those words would turn into action. Ships would move. Weapons would fire. People would die. Director Choi approached him. Fleet Admiral No reports all vessels are in position. We're ready to begin operations on your order? Jaewon nodded slowly. What's the status of the civilian population? Calm, focused, no panic, no unrest. They're angry, Commander. The kind of anger that doesn't burn out. Good, we'll need that anger. He walked to the command center, where screens showed the positions of every human ship in the galaxy. Thousands of vessels, from massive battleships to small fighters, all waiting for his command. Fleet Admiral No Kyung-soo appeared on one of the screens. He was a big man with a shaved head and a voice like rolling thunder. He had spent 40 years in the fleet and had never lost a battle. "Commander," he said, "the fleet is ready. All units report green across the board." "The crews are eager, sir." "Very eager. They'll get their chance soon enough." "Begin Phase 1, all targets as planned." "Yes, sir." The screens lit up with movement. Across human space, ships began to move. The largest military operation in human history was underway. J1 watched the displays and thought about New Bizon, about the dead, about the survivors still hiding in bunkers, waiting for rescue. "We're coming," he thought. "Hold on. We're coming," and then to the Council, to the Valorians, to everyone who had ever thought humanity was weak. "You wanted this fight. Now you have it." Admiral Park Do-yun stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched his fleet emerge from hyperspace. 60 warships dropped into normal space around New Bizon like wolves arriving at the hunt. Their hulls gleamed in the light of the twin suns. Their weapons powered up with a hum that Do-yun felt in his bones. The Valorian occupation fleet was waiting for them. 40 ships in defensive formation, surrounding the planet they had burned. "Admiral," Captain Kang Jae said from her station, "all ships report ready. The Valorians are hailing us. Ignore them." "Sir?" I said ignore them. They had their chance to talk. That chance ended when they bombed New Bizon. Jie nodded and turned back to her console. Do-yun studied the tactical display. The Valorian ships were larger than his, with heavier armor and more powerful weapons. By the Council's calculations, the numbers favored them. But the Council didn't know what Do-yun knew. The Council didn't know what humanity had been hiding. "All ships," he said into the fleet channel. "Execute attack pattern 7, fire at will." The human fleet surged forward. The Valorians responded with weapons fire, brilliant beams of energy that cut through space toward the advancing ships. They expected the humans to slow down, to spread out, to fight carefully like they always had. Instead, the human ships accelerated. They dove straight into the enemy formation, moving faster than the Valorians thought possible because the humans had better engines, faster drives, more efficient systems, technology they had developed in secret for 100 years. Hiding their true capabilities behind masks of weakness, the Indomitable sliced between 2 Valorian cruisers, firing both broadsides at once. The enemy ships exploded before they could even turn to face the threat. 2 kills, GA reported. "Enemy formation is breaking up. Press the attack. Don't give them time to regroup." Across the battlefield, human ships were tearing through the Valorian fleet. Fighters swarmed around the larger vessels like angry bees, targeting weapons and engines with precision strikes. Destroyers worked in pairs, coordinating their fire to bring down shields before delivering killing blows. Lieutenant Co. Haniel flew her fighter through the chaos. She had lost her family on New Bizon, her parents, her brother, her little nephew who had just learned to walk. They had lived in the capital city. They had died in the first bomb. She had cried for 3 days. Then she had stopped crying and started fighting. "Red Squadron, this is Red Leader," she said into her radio. "The enemy flagship shields are at 60%. Focus fire on the port generator." "Copy, Red Leader." Her squadron fell in behind her. 6 fighters moving as one, weaving through enemy fire with moves that should have been impossible. But Haniel had trained for this her whole life. Every pilot in the human fleet had. They knew their ships better than they knew their own bodies. The flagship's shields flickered as the fighters poured fire into the generator. Then with a flash, the generator exploded. The shields went down. "Shields are down," Haniel shouted. "All ships, the flagship is vulnerable." Admiral Park heard the call and smiled. "Helm, bring us about. Target the flagship. All forward batteries, fire." The Indomitable turned like a dancer and unleashed everything it had. Missiles, plasma bolts, kinetic rounds. The Valorian flagship tried to maneuver, tried to bring its weapons to bear, but it was too slow. The human fire struck it again and again, tearing through armor, destroying systems, killing crew. The flagship broke apart in a ball of fire. Target destroyed, GA reported. Enemy fleet is retreating. No, Doyan said. No retreat. Not until they're all gone. The human fleet pursued. The Valorians tried to jump to hyperspace, but human ships were faster. They cut off escape routes, herded the enemy together, and destroyed them one by one when it was over. 40 Valorian ships had become debris floating in orbit around New Bisan looked at the planet below. It was scarred with dark patches where cities had burned. But it was still there. Still alive, Captain Kong, he said. Take your team to the surface. Find the survivors. Yes, Admiral. GA left the bridge with her special operations team. They loaded into dropships and descended through the atmosphere. Flying over ruins that stretched from horizon to horizon, they found the survivors in a bunker near the mountains. 3 million people packed into underground shelters, waiting for rescue or death, not knowing which would come first. Governor Beek Sunho met them at the entrance. He looked like he had aged 20 years. His clothes were torn and dirty. His eyes were empty. Is it over? He asked. GA nodded. The Valorian fleet is destroyed. We've taken back the planet. Sunho stared at her like he didn't understand. Then he started to cry. Silent tears running down his face while he stood perfectly still. 9 million people, he whispered. They killed 9 million people. I know, and we're going to make them pay for every single one. She put a hand on his shoulder. It wasn't much comfort, but it was all she could offer. News of the victory spread across human space within hours. New Bizen was liberated. The Valorian occupation fleet was gone. But that was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, human forces were striking at Council targets. Military bases, supply depots, communication stations. 17 separate attacks launched simultaneously, all succeeding, all sending the same message. Humanity was done hiding. The Council was shocked. Their intelligence had told them that humans had a small fleet, outdated technology, weak military training. They had expected an easy conquest, a quick lesson that would keep humanity quiet for another century. Instead, they found themselves facing a species that had been preparing for war for 100 years. A species that had hidden its strength, built weapons in secret, trained armies in simulation, and waited for the day when they would finally be free to fight. Other species in the Council began to panic. The Kellerans, the Vastori, the Nimara. All of them had followed the Valorians for centuries because they thought the Valorians were invincible. Now they weren't so sure. Fleet Admiral No Kung-Su led the main human armada toward Valorian space. 300 ships, the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. They cut through enemy territory like a blade, destroying everything in their path. At a battle, the same pattern repeated. The Valorians expected humans to fight like they always had. Defensive, cautious, afraid. Instead, humans attacked with speed and aggression that left their enemies reeling. They used tactics that the Council had never seen. Technology that the Council didn't know existed, and they fought with an anger that burned hotter than any weapon. Admiral No stood on his flagship and watched another Valorian station explode. Admiral. His communications officer said, "We're receiving a message from the Council. They're requesting negotiations." No laughed. Now they want to talk? After New Bizen, after everything they've done. What should I tell them, sir? No thought about it for a moment. He thought about the footage he had seen. Cities burning. Children dying. 12 million people who had done nothing wrong except exist. Tell them we'll negotiate when we reach their homeworld. Tell them they can surrender then, and if they don't surrender? No's eyes were hard. Then we'll have to convince them. The fleet moved on, deeper into enemy space, closer to the heart of the Council. Behind them they left shattered stations and burning ships. Ahead of them, the Valorians prepared their final defenses, but it was too late for defense. Too late for negotiation. Too late for anything except facing the consequences of what they had done. Humanity was coming. And humanity was angry. On New Bisan, Captain Kong Jie helped coordinate the recovery efforts. Rescue teams searched the ruins for survivors. Medical ships treated the injured. Supply vessels brought food and water and medicine. She stood on a hill overlooking what used to be the capital city. Nothing remained except ash and rubble. Somewhere under all of that were 400,000 batas that would never be recovered. Her communicator buzzed. It was Admiral Park. Captain, the main fleet is approaching the Council homeworld. It should be over soon. Good. How are things on the surface? She looked at the ruins, at the survivors struggling to rebuild, at the children who would grow up with memories of fire and death. We'll survive, she said. We always do. Yes, we always do. The communication ended. GA stayed on the hill, watching the sun set over the broken city. This is why we fight, she thought. Not for revenge, not for conquest. For them. For the ones who survived. For the ones who will come after. She went back to work. There was still a lot to do. The Valorian homeworld was beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds drifting across a perfect sky. From orbit it looked peaceful. It looked innocent. It looked like any other world where people lived their lives and raised their children. Ambassador Yunmaire stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel and stared at it. 300 human warships surrounded the planet. Not attacking, not bombarding, just waiting. Ambassador, her aide said. The shuttle is ready. She nodded and turned away from the window. Today was the day. 3 months of war and it all ended here. One way or another, Supreme Commander Ojewan was waiting for her in the shuttle bay. He looked tired. They all looked tired. But there was something else in his eyes now. Something that hadn't been there before. Satisfaction, maybe. Or just relief. Are you ready? He asked. I've been ready for 30 years. They boarded the shuttle together and descended through the atmosphere. The Valorian capital city spread below them, towers of crystal and silver reaching toward the sky. It was magnificent. It was ancient. And it was completely surrounded by human forces. They landed in a plaza in front of the council hall. Valorian soldiers lined the streets, their weapons lowered, their faces blank. They had been ordered not to resist. There was nothing left to resist with. High Counselor Valorian Prime was waiting at the entrance. He was tall, even for a Valorian, with silver skin that shimmered in the sunlight. He had ruled the council for 200 years. He had ordered the attack on New Bizen. He had laughed when Ambassador Yun protested Resolution 7749. He wasn't laughing now. Ambassador Yun, he said. His voice was still smooth, still elegant, but there was something underneath it. Fear, maybe. Or hate. Welcome to our world. Thank you for receiving us, High Counselor. They walked together into the council hall. It was a massive chamber, large enough to hold representatives from 1,000 species. Today it was nearly empty. Only the highest leaders of the council were present. Sitting in their chairs, watching the humans approach, Ambassador Yun stood at the central podium. Supreme Commander O stood behind her, along with a security detail of human soldiers. Their presence was a message. We are here. We are strong. We are not afraid of you anymore. Let us begin, Yun said. I will present humanity's terms for ending this war. You will accept them. High Counselor Prime leaned forward. And if we refuse? You won't refuse. You seem very confident. I am. Shall I tell you why? She activated a display. Images appeared in the air above the chamber. Human ships. Human soldiers. Human worlds. In 3 months, we have destroyed 60% of your military capacity. We have taken control of 47 star systems. We have cut off your supply lines, disrupted your communications, and crippled your economy. Your allies are abandoning you. Your people are losing faith. And we haven't even started trying yet. She let that sink in. We could burn this world. We could destroy every city, kill every person, wipe the Valorian species from existence. We have the power to do it. You know we do? The council members shifted in their seats. Some of them looked frightened. Others looked angry. None of them spoke. But we won't, Yun continued. Because we are not you? We do not murder civilians. We do not bomb planets without warning. We do not laugh while children die. We are better than that. We have always been better than that. She straightened her shoulders. Here are our terms. First, the Galactic Council in its current form is dissolved. A new council will be formed with equal representation for all species, including humanity. No more second-class members. No more votes decided before we enter the room. High Counselor Prime's face tightened, but he said nothing. Second, reparations. The Valorian Empire will provide full compensation for the attack on New Bizan and for all previous sabotage operations against human interests. The amount will be determined by an independent commission. Payment will continue until the debt is satisfied. Third, free expansion. Humanity will no longer be restricted to any number of star systems. We will settle where we choose, develop what we choose, and build what we choose. Any attempt to limit our growth will be considered an act of war. Fourth, accountability. The individuals responsible for the attack on New Bizan will face trial for crimes against sentient life. This includes military commanders, political leaders, and anyone else who gave orders or participated in the massacre. She looked directly at High Counselor Prime. That includes you. The chamber erupted. Valorian delegates shouted in protest. Other species whispered among themselves. High Counselor Prime rose from his seat, his eyes blazing. You cannot put me on trial. I am the High Counselor. I have ruled this galaxy for 200 years. And in those 200 years, how many species have you oppressed? How many worlds have you exploited? How many people have died because of your arrogance? Yoon's voice was calm, but it cut through the noise like a blade. You thought humanity was weak. You thought we would bow forever. You were wrong. And now you will face the consequences. Prime stared at her for a long moment. His hands trembled with rage. Then slowly he sat back down. If I refuse these terms, then the war continues. And I promise you, High Counselor, it will not end well for your people. The silence stretched out. The entire chamber held its breath. Finally, Prime spoke. Very well. I accept, Yoon nodded. Then let us make it official. They signed the Treaty of Earth that afternoon. High Counselor Prime's hand shook as he wrote his name. Ambassador Yoon's hand was steady. When it was done, she addressed the chamber one final time. I have served as humanity's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 20 years. In that time, I have smiled through insults. I have accepted unfair deals. I have watched my people suffer while I begged for scraps of respect. I did this because I believed that peace was possible. I believed that if we showed enough patience, enough goodwill, you would eventually see us as equals. She paused. I was wrong. You never wanted equals. You wanted servants? And when we refused to serve, you tried to destroy us. Her voice hardened. So let me be clear. This treaty is not forgiveness. We will not forget what you did to New Bizan. We will not forget the 9 million people you murdered. We will honor this agreement as long as you honor it. But if you ever attack us again, if you ever try to push us back into the corner where you kept us for 300 years, we will come back. And next time, we will not stop at your homeworld. She looked around the chamber at all the faces watching. Her, Valorians, Kellerans, Vastori, Namara, species, that had ruled the galaxy for millennia and had never imagined that humans would stand among them as equals. We never wanted war. We never wanted empire. We only wanted to be left alone. You refused. Remember that. Remember what happens when you push too far. Remember that humanity breaks before it bends. She turned and walked out of the chamber. Supreme Commander O followed her. Behind them, the council sat in stunned silence. 1 year later, Governor Beek Sunho stood in the rebuilt capital of New Bizan. It wasn't the same city. It would never be the same. But it was alive again. Buildings rose from the ashes. People walked the streets. Children played in parks built over the ruins. He visited the memorial every morning. 9 million names carved into black stone. 9 million lives that ended too soon. Admiral Park Do-yeon visited him sometimes. The old warrior had retired after the war and now taught at the military academy on Earth. He was writing a book about the conflict. He said he wanted future generations to understand what had happened and why. Do you think it was worth it? Sun Ho asked him once. Do Yan thought about it for a long time. Ask me in 100 years, he said. If humanity is still free, still growing, still building a future for our children, then yes. It was worth it. Captain Congier stayed on New Bizon. She resigned her commission and joined the reconstruction effort. She said she was tired of destroying things. She wanted to build something instead. Lieutenant Seo Haniel went home to Earth. She visited the graves of her family and cried for a long time. Then she went back to work, training new pilots, passing on what she knew. She never stopped missing them, but she learned to live with the hole they left behind. Ambassador Yun Mai remained in her position. There was still work to do, treaties to negotiate, alliances to build. The galaxy was different now, and humanity had to figure out how to live in it. She kept a picture on her desk. It showed New Bizon before the attack. Green mountains, blue rivers, white cities. A reminder of what had been lost. And what had been saved. Sometimes she looked at the picture and wondered if there had been another way. If she could have found the right words, made the right arguments, convinced the council to choose peace. She never found an answer. Maybe there wasn't one, but she knew one thing for certain. Humanity had survived. Humanity had fought back. And humanity would never bow again. The galaxy had learned its lesson. They would not forget.